I am a nasty woman. I'm not as nasty as a man who looks like he bathes in Cheeto dust.
I'm sure by now many of you have seen this incoherent rant from Ashley Judd as part of the Women's March on Washington that achieved nothing other than portraying a large swath of American women as a bunch of hysterical children. What you may not know is that she was actually reciting a poem written by a 19-year-old white guilt-ridden millennial that has absolutely no grasp on reality. You see, when all you have is misplaced outrage, emotional overreactions, and a complete disregard for factually accurate information, you dress it up as art, in this case, slam poetry, and then pretend that it has some merit or validity because some idiot said it on stage. And to some extent, it works. It works on the minds of those that are also emotionally fragile. But the problem with emotional infants is because they're so wrapped up in their own fake outrage, they're unable to comprehend how ridiculous they appear to the rest of us normal people. Now perhaps you can forgive the Dunkin' Donuts millennial for her complete lack of knowledge, but Ashley Judd is old enough to have some clue what she's talking about. Although she is an actress and she's used to other people telling her what to say, and I'm not sure, given the profoundly stupid crap uttered by other movie stars in 2016, that coming up with their own words would be a better alternative. But let's dissect this abomination anyway.
A man whose words are a diss track to America. Electoral college sanctioned hate speech contaminating this national anthem.
Electoral college hate speech contaminating this national anthem. Now, it should be noted that this was not part of the original poem. It seems Ashley Judd has taken poetic license. And yes, I use that phrase ironically. But what does it even mean? How do you pass this nonsense? Is this an objection to the electoral college system? Or an objection to electoral college members voting for their state's winning candidate despite the panic-stricken protests of a bunch of sore losers? Because if it is, shouldn't you have been protesting that before the election? And if Clinton had won the electoral college and lost the popular vote, would you be objecting? Of course not, because it's not about the principle. It's about which team you're on.
I'm not as nasty as Confederate flags being tattooed across my city. Maybe the South actually is gonna rise again. Maybe for some, it never really fell. Blacks are still in shackles and graves just for being black.
Ah, yes, the poor, helpless blacks. So here's a shout out to the Black Lives Matter narrative. Never mind that it's hyperbolic babble. Yes, occasionally black people are victims of inept, or even in rare instances, racist police. But this is not exclusive to black people. And given the disproportionate amount of crime committed by black people, the rate they get shot is not surprising.
Slavery has been reinterpreted as the prison system in front of people who see melanin as animal skin.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm pretty sure it's the social justice left that insists on making melanin a huge issue.
What we need, in my opinion, we don't need white people leading the Democratic Party right now.
I am not as nasty as a swastika painted on a pride flag.
How about one painted on a church by two liberal students?
And I didn't know devils could be resurrected, but I feel Hitler in these streets. A mustache traded for a toupee. Nazis renamed the cabinet. Electroconversion therapy, the new gas chamber, shaming the gay out of America, turning rainbows into suicide notes.
I'm surprised it took this long for the Hitler comparison to come out. Whee! And Mike Pence is apparently advocating for the new version of the final solution. Putting aside the false equivalence, Mike Pence never mentioned electroconversion therapy. He never even mentioned conversion therapy. Even PolitiFact only thinks this claim is half true. What Pence's website actually said back in 2000 was, Congress should support the reauthorization of the Ryan White CARE Act only after completion of an audit to ensure that federal dollars were no longer being given to organisations that celebrate and encourage the types of behaviours that facilitate the spreading of the HIV virus. Resources should be directed towards those institutions which provide assistance to those seeking to change their sexual behaviour. So some decided to interpret that as Pence being pro-conversion therapy, and others as him being pro-abstinence. Either way, Pence doesn't have the most liberal view on gay rights, but he's hardly calling for the next Holocaust.
I am not as nasty as racism, fraud, conflict of interest, homophobia, sexual assault, transphobia, white supremacy, misogyny, ignorance, white privilege.
And when you run out of fake arguments, it's time to bring out the bigotry bingo card and read off all the entries to virtue signal your solidarity with the marginalised. You know, the people that you treat like helpless victims with no agency. You bigot.
I'm not as nasty as using little girls like Pokemon before their bodies have even developed. I am not as nasty as your own daughter being your favorite sex symbol. Like your wet dreams infused with your own genes, but...
I'm not sure what that first part's about, but the idea that Trump wants to bang his daughter when all he said was that he'd date her if she wasn't his daughter. Now, you can call that creepy if you want, or a father that adores his child. I don't know. It doesn't rise to the level of nasty for me personally.
Yeah, I'm a nasty woman. A loud, vulgar, proud woman. I'm not nasty. Like the combo of Trump and Pence being served up to me in my voting booth. I'm nasty like the battles my grandmothers fought to get me into that voting booth.
I note those stunning and brave grandmothers of yours didn't battle for you to be conscripted as part of the deal for getting the vote. You know, like the other half of the population had to sign up for.
I'm nasty. Like the fight for wage equality. Scarlett Johansson, why were the female actors paid less than half of what the male actors earned last year? See, even when we do go into higher paying jobs, our wages are still cut with blades sharpened by testosterone.
Yeah, those poor underprivileged actresses. If your agent is not negotiating enough pay for you, then get another agent. Maybe it has to do with who has the better deal maker, or who's the bigger draw on the marquee. How about you fund your own movies and pay yourself a fortune? Let us know how that works out.
Why is the work of a black woman and a Hispanic woman worth only 63 and 54 cents of a white man's privileged daughter? This is not a feminist myth. This is inequality.
And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, she brings up the coveted wage gap. Now, the wage gap, or more accurately, the earnings gap, is not a myth. It's the explanation for the earnings gap that's the myth. At this point, if you think women get paid less than men because sexism, you are the equivalent of a flat earther. And she even gets the misrepresentation of the so-called wage gap wrong. She compares the earnings of black and Hispanic women to that of a privileged white man's daughter. Those numbers are actually a comparison to the earnings of white men. But I notice she doesn't bring up Asian men and their obvious yellow privilege.
That's racist! So we are not here to be debunked. We are here to be respected.
This is the equivalent of...
Children, fingers in your ears and make the la-la sound. La-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la.
We're not here to be debunked. We're not here to have facts and evidence permeate our outrage. We just want to screech into the wind, and we want you to listen and believe.
We are here to be nasty. I'm nasty. Like my blood stains on my bed sheets, we don't actually choose if and when to have our periods. Believe me, if we could, some of us would. We don't like throwing away our favorite pairs of underpants. Tell me, why are pads and Tampax still taxed? Ooh, that was a brand name. Why are tampons and pads still taxed when Viagra and Rogaine are not? Is your erection really more than protecting the sacred, messy part of my womanhood? Is the blood stain on my jeans more embarrassing than the thinning of your hair?
And what would a good feminist rant be without bringing up your period? But this idea that there's some special tax on tampons is ridiculous. As Nicole Kading, a state policy analyst, says, there's no more a tampon tax than there's a soap tax, shampoo tax, or toilet paper tax. And actually, according to PolitiFact, 7 states don't tax them and 5 states have no sales tax. Viagra is a prescription drug and is only taxed in the state of Illinois, and Rogaine is only exempt from taxes in 8 states. But let's just ignore those pesky, inconvenient facts. And what's with the conspicuous display of pink for the Women's March? Isn't that gender stereotyping? Didn't you get the memo? A lot of internalised misogyny in this march, methinks.
I know it is hard to look at your own entitlement and privilege. You may be afraid of the truth. I am unafraid to be honest. It may sound petty, bringing up a few extra cents. It adds up to the pile of change I have yet to see in my country.
Yeah, that is petty, and maybe you should take that as an indication that there's very little left to fight for women in the Western world. Maybe you should turn your attention to other problems elsewhere.
I can't see. My eyes are too busy praying to my feet, hoping you don't mistake eye contact for wanting physical contact. Have my life. I have been zipping up my smile, hoping you don't think I want to unzip your jeans.
Such modesty. I'm so attractive, I have to look at the ground and refrain from smiling, or else men will assume I want to sleep with them. And you've had to deal with this for half your life. Well, the good news is, at the age of 49, that half of your life is over. After all, your ex-husband, doesn't want to sleep with you anymore. In fact, he's already sleeping with someone else, and they have a child after just 3 years of marriage.
I am unafraid to be nasty because I am nasty, like Susan, Elizabeth, Eleanor, Amelia, Rosa, Gloria, Condoleezza, Sonia, Malala, Michelle, Hillary.
Now, I'm not going to go through her list of famous women and pick it apart, but I am a little confused as to why she included Hilary Duff.
And our pussies ain't for grabbing. Therefore, reminding you that our walls are stronger than America's ever will be. Our pussies are for our pleasure. They are for birthing new generations of filthy, vulgar, nasty, proud, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Sikh, you name it, for new generations of nasty women.
Oh yeah, maybe this should be part of sex ed in high school. Today we're going to hear what the pussy is for, kids. That should scare the shit out of teenage boys. Might even help bring the teenage pregnancy rate down as well.
So if you, a nasty woman, or you love one who is, let me hear you say, hell yeah. Hell yeah! Hell yeah! I love you. Thank you.
And mercifully, that brings us to an end of Ashley Judd's hysterical, factually incorrect, intolerant, incoherent, pathetic rant. And that's what makes her the perfect poster child of feminist failure. And don't forget, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, or consider supporting me on Patreon. See you next time.